Hi, this is Mashnu, and here is example number 6 of the positional sacrifices. Now this time it's a well-known game from the Candidates tournament played in 1953. This position was reached in the game between Samuel Oreshevsky, playing with the white pieces, against Tigran Petrosyan, playing black. And it's black to move here, so if you would like to do the exercise, then pause the video now and have a good look at the position and see what you would play here with black. I'll continue the explanation as usual after a few seconds. Alright, so let's have a look what's going on here. It's those two pawns, those two white pawns here in the center are of course very strong. We can also see that white has the pair of bishops, but this bishop on b2 is not active. It's actually very badly placed there, not very active. And if we would think with black about the question what would be the most ideal squares for our pieces, we could say that, well, this bishop is very well placed there on this diagonal, but this knight is not well placed there. Actually, having this knight on d5 would be great. There it would have actually much influence, stopping these passed pawns and also having an attack to the rook on e3, the queen on f4, and this pawn on c3. So black's plan in this position was to try to get this knight to d5. Now, doing this in a slow way, let's say by moving the knight to a7 with this idea, knight c8, knight b6, knight d5, would be actually be too slow, because then white simply advances the e-pawn with e6, and after f takes e6, bishop to e6 check. There is something very funny happening, that if here black plays either king to h8 or bishop to f7, it doesn't matter. The same move can be played by white here. So bishop takes c4. Bishop takes c4. Actually, this bishop cannot be taken because then rook takes e7, attacking the queen. So here we have to take with black on e3, and then after rook takes, again the queen is attacked. We must move, and well, white will have won simply this pawn for free, so the bishop can be placed in a safe place, and this whole idea of bringing the knight to this strong square doesn't count any longer. It's actually a very bad position for black here. So let's return to the position where we left, because this knight maneuver is taking us too long, and that's the reason why Tigran Petrosyan played here the wonderful sacrifice rook to e6. With rook to e6, he's actually making a shorter way for the knight to reach d5. It's not very clear if this sacrifice is completely sound or not, but in practice, and that's what happens. That's actually the funny thing, the mysterious also thing about positional sacrifices, that often we simply have an impression about what is the compensation that we get, the positional compensation for the sacrifice material, but we cannot be always 100% certain that this would lead to a winning position. I find this example very instructive, because if we look at how the game continued, actually Oreshevsky didn't accept the sacrifice immediately. He waited one move. He could have played bishop takes e6 here, but he played first a4, threatening to take here on b5, and if black takes on a4, then c4 is very weak, and a4 as well. So here black continued with his own idea of knight to e7, and now white took on e6. F takes e6, and now, because the threat is there of knight to d5, forking queen and rook, white played queen to f1. The knight went to d5, and now the rook is attacked on e3 and went to the f file, the only open file Now with the next move, black activates its pieces even more with bishop to d3. And here we see the result of this sacrifice. Actually, black's pieces have been placed on very active squares, and if we compare this with this badly placed bishop on b2, we can of course say that black has enough compensation for the sacrifice material. Now Reshevsky did here with white a very wise thing. He returned the material by playing rook takes d3. Let's have a short look what would have happened if Reshevsky would have been very materialistic and would have wanted to stay with this change up. Let's say that this attacked queen goes to the only place where it can go, f2, queen f2. In that case, black can now start pushing his queenside pawns with b4. With b4, not only the pawn on a4 is attacked, also this pawn on c3. So if here, for example, queen to d2 to defend c3, then queen takes a4, and then suddenly black has very dangerous pawns here on the queen side. So we can say that as a defensive tool, the counter sacrifice is a very wise decision. Rook takes d3 was played, and then c takes d3 followed, queen takes d3, and now with b4 black started advancing these pawns on the queen side. C takes d8 takes b4, and well, this endgame ended in a draw after about 10 moves later. So this is actually the instructive part, let's say, that has to do with this theme of positional sacrifices. So I'll show you just in a quick way the rest of the game. a5 was played now, advancing the pass pawn, rook to a8 to attack this pass pawn, rook to a1 to support it. Now queen to c6, placing the queen on an active square on this c file and also keeping an eye on a6. Bishop to c1 now, queen to c7 attacking the pawn on a5, a6, now queen to b6, not only attacking this a6 pawn but also the pawn on d4. Bishop to d2, attacking the pawn on b4, the pawn advances, queen to c4, h6 giving the black king some air, h3, and now advance to b2, the rook goes to b1, king goes to h8, bishop to e1, and here the players agreed a draw, since there is no clear not a clear winning plan for either black or white. Perhaps you wonder, we can take here on a6, right? Well, if rook takes a6, then white has queen to c8 check, and this was the reason why this move h6 was needed, to give the king some air, so we can play king to h7 here. And now comes another check on c2, and after this the b2 pawn will fall. So if here, for example, king to g8, then queen takes b2, and again white has regained the lost material. And it is of course true that white has a pawn advantage here, but this pawn has no future as long as this knight stays here on d5 controlling this this pass pawn. So I think draw is a very, let's say, it's a correct and understandable result. But let's return to the most important parts of this position. It was actually here in the beginning when we saw this idea of rook to e6, a very creative way of making this plan. And then a4 was played, knight to e7, the sacrifice was accepted, and then queen to f1, knight to d5, rook to f3, and then bishop to d3, placing the light pieces on very active squares. And here the decision of white to return material in order to be able to defend the position. So b4 is less strong then. Alright, I'll just stop here, and I'll wish you a great day, and I hope that you will like this video, and I'll see you next time on the next episode.